So we got tonight, Thursday night football. I'm gonna give my predictions. So we got the Denver Broncos, and Sean Payton and the Denver Broncos are going into an emotional homecoming tonight against the Saints. Sean Payton returns to New Orleans. He used to coach, and he was the head coach for the New Orleans Saints for over 16 years. And for over those 16 years, he won a Super Bowl championship, providing the Saints their first ever in Saints history. Their first ever, and so far their only one so far. Also, over that 16 years, they led the NFL in yards, passing yards, and they were a top 4 and 5 scoring team throughout that entire 16-year span. Him and Drew Brees was a phenomenal duo, quarterback and head coach duo, Hall of Fame coach, Hall of Fame quarterback, which means that they always had a chance to win. And at any given time, they could have made another run to a Super Bowl. Unfortunately, they only had one Super Bowl. Speaking of Drew Brees, they will also be honoring Drew Brees at halftime. So let's dive a little deeper into this. New Orleans is 2-4 on the season and reeling after an ugly 51-27 loss to their divisional rival, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And to even go deeper into that, due to the Hurricanes, Tampa Bay, they've been stashed up in a hotel for an entire week, and they go right into New Orleans and just destroy them. Dennis Allen, who is the Saints head coach, he served as Denver's coordinator in 2011. But right now, he is a defensive head coach, and right now his defensive, I guess you could say, expertise is not really so far kicking in for the Saints. He also coached, ironically, under Sean Payton while Sean Payton was in New Orleans. The Saints, they need to get it together because they started off very, very strong, but now they're not looking as nearly as great and unstoppable as they were in the beginning of the year. When they played against Tampa Bay, they freaking gave up almost 600 yards to the Buccaneers. The Saints struggled in almost all areas when they faced Tampa Bay. They missed 16 tackles. They couldn't stop the run. They couldn't stop the pass. And the Bucs, like I said, were stashed up in a hotel for an entire week. And the Saints were playing at home. So it's just like the Saints are just not a team right now that's looking like they're prepared. I mean, they are facing a lot of injuries, but that's no excuse. Everybody's facing injuries. I don't know what excuse to give them by them losing by having 4 consecutive losses after a 2-0 start. And so I guess you can say you got to take into consideration the backdrop here is the starting quarterback Derek Carr, who's continuing to be sidelined due to an oblique injury, but still. But as for the Broncos, they did see their 3-game winning streak come to an end this past weekend in a 23-16 loss to my Los Angeles Chargers. So I would say this. The Broncos offense started to look a little better when they was playing against the Los Angeles Chargers last week. It was starting to kick in towards the end of the game. Bo Nix does show signs of. He showed signs. He showed promising. Bo Nix looked very promising against the Chargers last week. And so I see things are starting to kick in for him. The game is starting to be a little slower for him, and so Bo Nix can definitely transform into a solid starting quarterback for the NFL for the Denver Broncos, especially with him being coached under Sean Payton, and Sean Payton's expertise in playing and calling off great offense, and then obviously the Denver Broncos, their defense complementing that offense. Because the Denver Broncos defense is a top 5 defense in the league, and they're top 5 in all different defensive categories as well. So that's going to be a plus for Bo Nix. And then they got a pretty solid good running back, Javonte Williams. And in my opinion, I think that offense is ran through Javonte Williams. And you also got to take into consideration that the Broncos, Sean Payton, and I think he calls more screen passes more than any other team in the NFL. One thing I would say though is that Sean Payton, he is, since he's been a coach in the NFL. Even when he was in with the New Orleans Saints, he's called more screen passes. I mean, not more, but I won't say more, but he's known for calling a lot of screen passes. I don't know if he's number one, but he has done it since he's been in the NFL, since he's been coaching, even when his Saints days. And I think he's number one currently with the Denver Broncos on calling more screen passes than any other team in the NFL. So that's something to look out for, especially with things starting to click with Bo Nix and with the Saints defense looking terrible. So that's something to look out for. You already know that Sean Payton, he's going to come into New Orleans rolling hot, man. He's going to have the Broncos coming in there playing like their hair is on fire. So they have to the Saints needs to get together. And I think the Saints are going to lose. And I'll give you my predictions on the score at the end of this segment. Now, with that being said about Bo Nix, Spencer Rattler, he looked pretty solid against Tampa Bay for the first half. But he kind of struggled in the second half. Let's see. The Saints, they also lost 4 consecutive games. And they're facing a possibility of falling out of the playoff contention before November even hits. So hopefully Spencer Rattler can help the Saints out. But I highly doubt it. He's still a rookie, and he was struggling against Tampa Bay. Let's see here. We talk a little bit more about the Saints defense. Tampa Bay, when the Saints faced Tampa Bay, they ran for over 200 yards last week. I don't know if the Broncos is going to be able to run that much on them, but due to Bo Nix being a very elusive quarterback and always looking to scramble all the time, that's something that bothers me a little bit, because Bo Nix, he is very, he's very elusive. He's very athletic, but he can be overly aggressive with that. He sometimes can not allow things to fluctuate and to form. He climbs the pocket and he just scrambles instead of having good pocket presence and going through his progressions and completing completing necessary passes for even bigger yardage. You got Cortland Sutton, and you got a really good wide receiver, really solid number one. You need to go through your progressions instead of just being so overly aggressive, just trying to scramble, climbing the pocket, and then scrambling. That's one of Bo Nix's biggest problems. If he can fix that, he can be a pretty solid, good quarterback. But with that being said, the Saints, with them not having really good, their linebackers are kind of falling off right now. I mean, Chase Young and they're having a lot of injuries. Their defense is not where it's supposed to be. They have a lot of missed tackles. They had a lot of missed tackles last week. And with that being said, Bo Nix can definitely get a lot of yardage through that with his elusiveness. And then with the Javonte Williams. And then every now and then Bo Nix does complete passes. You got Cortland Sutton down the field. And then, now the Saints, they do have a really pretty good cornerback in Marshawn Lattimore, so that can help them out, but that's not going to be enough at all. And then when you think about this, the Saints, they call more screen plays than anything. So last week, I forget the wide receiver's name. Dang it. Not Mike Evans, but the other wide receiver. It's Chris Godwin. He was eating them up in the screens and in the short passes. He was eating the ball alive last week. So that's something that the Broncos can look into. So the Saints, they're going to have to gather up a meeting and discuss how they are going to get their defense together, because Sean Payton, he's going to dial up some stuff for them. He definitely is. And as good as Sean Payton was in New Orleans, as an offensive coach with Drew Brees. The Broncos offense, like we kind of briefly talked about, is right now is 29th in the league in yards and 24th in scoring, and they were down 23-0 last week to the LA Chargers. Now, like I said, they did come back. They did try. They was trying to make a comeback. Bo Nix, things were starting to click for Bo Nix, and that was against the Chargers defense. The Chargers has one of the top defenses in the league, but it still wasn't enough. Their offense is very, very slow. Their offense starts off extremely slow every single game, and they have not had a lead throughout any of the 6 weeks that has the entire year, this entire season. They haven't had a lead at all, and I think that every single game that they have played, they have freaking only scored. No, they haven't scored at all in the first half. They've only scored. They had 0 points going into halftime. So that's a very, very slow offense. So they have one of the worst offenses in the entire NFL. They got to get that together. And this is the perfect game for them to do it against a struggling Saints defense. And with Sean Payton coming home, this is a perfect time for them to do it. And I think they are. I honestly think they're going to go in there and they're going to throw and run all over the Saints. That's my opinion. The Broncos are also having some issues on their offensive line. The Broncos are down to their third string left tackle. The Saints are also hurting on defense. The Broncos are struggling on offense. Like we talked about that. So it can end up being a balanced game, but the thing about it that's going to make it lopsided is that the Broncos offense has a lot of potential. Their offense has a lot of potential, and I feel like the Broncos offense can click any moment throughout the regular season. It's really just depending on when Bo Nix is going to get it together. That's what I believe. They have a good running back. They have a good tight end. They got a great offensive calling play coach. So their offense, I think, is, especially depending on who they're matching up against, their offense can click. So that, and Bo Nix's elusiveness can make it very hard for defenses. And especially if a defense cannot tackle, that's going to be tough. This is the first time throughout the entire season that two rookie quarterbacks are facing each other, Bo Nix and Spencer Rattler. Bo Nix, 12th pick in the NFL draft. He's going to be leading the Denver Broncos into the New Orleans. And also something else to look into, Bo Nix, he thrived in Oregon in an up-tempo offense. That's when they started like really clicking against LA. And using that up-tempo offense that I'm pretty sure that Sean Payton is going to be using tonight, that's going to put the Saints in a lot of tough situations, a lot of very uncomfortable, tough situations. And so, like I said, even though he is a very good athlete, he needs to be better. He needs to have better pocket presence, going through his regressions instead of aggressively climbing the pocket, always looking to scramble and stuff. Bo Nix needs to be more patient. Spencer Rattler, he'd be leading the Saints into this game tonight. He was the 150th pick in the NFL draft. And assuming that Derek Carr is still nursing his oblique injury he suffered against the Chiefs, Spencer Rattler, he had a pretty good preseason. And he played well in the first half against Tampa. He was moving the ball up and down the field. He showed a lot of athleticism. He was going through his progressions. He was doing pretty good, making some pretty solid decisions. But as soon as when they fell behind, this is what like freaking tells you a lot about a quarterback. When the team falls behind, are you able to climb up out of that pit, and are you still able to perform and to put your team on your back and win the game? You can't just always be leading all the time. And so, but as soon as they fell behind, that's when he started struggling. Tampa, they started switching up things. They started blitzing. They started changing up coverages, changing up disguises. Spencer Rattler had a hard time. Let's go over a little bit of the Saints' injuries. So the Saints, they have tons of injuries. Tyrann Mathieu is out. I did not know that at first. Pete Warner, Will Harris, Taysom Hill. That's a huge deal. And their guards and center is out as well. The Saints, they had a pretty solid offensive line until they had a pretty good offensive. They have two really good tackles, and one tackle he was drafted. I forget his name. Let me look up his name. The Saints tackle. He's a really really great tackle that they drafted. Yeah, dang, I don't want to mess this guy's name up. Talisi Fuaga, I think that's how you pronounce his name. I would look it up how to say his name, and I'll correct it in the next video because I don't want to mess these guys' names up. But I think it's Talisa or Talisi Fuaga. So yeah, he was the 14th pick in the first round out of Oregon State. Phenomenal tackle. See, the Saints' two tackles isn't the issue. Their guards is what the issue. So, but also guys to look out for in this game: Brandon Jones. Free safety. He's a free safety for the Broncos. He's a pretty good free safety. And Troy Franklin. That's somebody else to look out for as well for the Broncos. And back to the Saints offense. Their offense, everybody knows that the Saints offense is running through Alvin Kamara. He leads the NFL. Alvin Kamara is definitely somebody to look out for tonight. Even though the Broncos has a really great defense, I think Alvin Kamara would have a pretty solid good game tonight, but it's not going to be enough. Alvin Kamara, he leads the NFL with 132 touches in 6 games. He carried the ball 104 times. He caught 28 passes so far through 6 games. All that through 6 games. So his usage is extremely high, is extreme. He also leads the Saints with 7 combined touchdowns. His all-purpose yardage is outstanding, which for 666 all-purpose yards in 6 games, rushing and receiving. This is the third in the NFL. So this proves, like, when Taysom Hill was in, Derek Carr, Alvin Kamara, they was all rolling, and then Chris Olave. That's a scary offense, but they all getting hurt. Right now the only one who's not hurt is Alvin Kamara, and his load is going to pack up even more. So hopefully he doesn't get hurt. So Taysom Hill, talking about Taysom Hill, he is a huge part of this offense. And to be honest, I would not bet any money on the Saints if Taysom Hill is not playing. That's just my opinion. Because he did not play the last few games, but he is a certifiable threat on every snap. He is very hard to prepare for. He could be a quarterback. He could be a wing tight end. He could play wide receiver. He could play in the slot. He does so many things, and he opens up so many windows of deception. It's incredibly hard for a defense to prepare for Taysom He is a football player. He is like somebody, like, when you look him up, he's just an athlete. Because that's what he is. He's very versatile. He's a football guy. So when the Saints lose him, it really compromises their entire running game, maybe their entire offense. And so even with Alvin Kamara running the ball, it's going to be tough. And so the Saints wide receiver core is also something to consider. With Chris Olave and their other starting wide receiver out. I forget the guy's name. Let me look up his name real quick. So Chris Olave will not play because of a concussion, and Rashid Shaheed will not play due to a meniscus injury. So Dennis Allen said that on Wednesday. So they're going to be depending on 2 very, very young wide receivers. The Saints are 2 rookies. They're going to play tonight. So that's going to be and that's going against the Denver Broncos. That's going against the Denver Broncos defense. Their offense is not going to do that. That's not going to do anything. And Spencer Rattler has not proven that he can play behind. This can be a very solid, great defensive game due to the Denver Broncos struggling offense and due to the Saints, I won't say struggling offense, but due to the Saints injuries on their offense, So I guess you could say right now their offense presently is struggling because of a lot of injuries. But the Denver Broncos offense is struggling because it's just they're still trying to figure it out. They have, they're still new and whatever. But this could be a very low scoring game. Now, even with the Saints 2 wide receivers out, they do have two really good, solid. I guess I won't say good, but two very solid tight ends. Juwan Johnson and the other tight end, I forget his name. Saints tight end. I forget his name. I can't remember the Saints tight end, but they have two really good tight ends that are very solid, and one is a really good receiving tight end. So which is Juwan Johnson. So look out for him. He's gonna have a lot of heavy load tonight. So I'll close it in on talking a little bit about the Broncos defense that I believe that's going to shut down the Saints offense tonight. It's going to be too much for Spencer Rattler. It's going to be too much for him. And even though, they're going to be without Pat Surtain due to a concussion, he's more than likely not playing tonight. Let's see if Pat Surtain is playing. Let's see what his concussion protocol is looking like. Yeah, he's officially out. And they announced it, I guess, yesterday. Wow. Wait, is this true? He's going to miss the first game of his professional career. He's never missed a game? Holy crap. That's crazy. I did not know that. He's never missed a game. That's something I'm going to look deeper into. I don't know how true that is, but that was off one of the sources I was looking at. It said he's never missed a game. This is his first game that he's ever missed. I think they'll announce that tonight if he never missed a game. But, I don't really recall Pat Surtain ever missing a game. I don't recall it. And I live in Los Angeles, so I catch all the AFC games. When I catch all the games, I have an NFL Sunday ticket. But, yeah, that might be true. He probably never have missed a game. Pat Surtain, man, he's a future Hall of Famer. Definitely a future Hall of Famer. First ballot. Nobody blitzes more than the Denver Broncos defensive coordinator Ben Joseph, who was actually ironically the former head coach of the Denver Broncos. The Broncos has 22 sacks that holds them second in the NFL, top 5 defense and total yardage. And speaking of Pat Surtain is one of the very, very few corners in the NFL who play star coverage. So star coverage means that Pat Surtain can go find the receiver whenever. Let me push back on that. He can go find the best receiver whenever he wants. The Broncos defense also they do struggle on third down. They started struggling on third down last week, and that's probably due to Pat Surtain being out. But they struggled a lot. The Chargers, which is very good on third down. So it might not be a big deal because this is something that people don't understand. Justin Herbert is phenomenal on third and fourth down. He is really, really great on converting for third and fourth downs. He's amongst one of the best quarterbacks in the entire NFL on converting on third downs. And fourth downs as well. But people want to say Justin Herbert is not clutch. Okay. But anyway, we're not talking about that right now. We're talking about the Broncos and the Saints. But the Broncos also, they never really had a lead. Even with that style defense. I mentioned that. It was like, even going in, I briefly talked about that, even with them going like 0-0, not even, but with them going to 0-0, not going 0-0, but with them having nearly 0 points going into halftime, they've never had a lead, even with their defense being so great. That shows you how terrible their offense is. It also tells you when their offense starts clicking how scary of a team they will be. So, That's something that these teams are becoming better and better and better. It's just making the NFL more competitive. But I know Sean Payton would love to have a lead against the Saints and Rattler tonight. I know he would love that. The Broncos, they're going to have to stop the bootleg and they're going to have to stop the run because they're kind of bad on that. Well, they're not. I won't say they're bad on that, but the Saints, they like running that. So if the Broncos can contain that as well, they can have a chance. If they can stop the run and they can get Bo Nix back on that field, they can keep their defense off the field, keep the Saints defense on the field, keep Bo Nix on the field because they can have more and more plays, give Bo Nix more reps, give Bo Nix more time to score. Let's see what happens. The Broncos' pressure rate is second in the NFL. Their sack rate is third. That's going to give Spencer Rattler a hard time. And that, my friend, I think is what's going to give the Broncos the winning edge tonight. Sean Payton is too competitive of a coach. He's too hardcore of a coach. And I know he's very emotional tonight for him to come in here to have a second consecutive loss and lose at his homecoming. Sean Payton is too competitive for that. He's too great of a coach for that. I don't see Sean Payton losing this game. I don't see the Broncos losing this game. My only concern is Pat Surtain not playing. That's my only concern. My concern is even in the Broncos' offense, struggling offense. Because Sean Payton knows how to coach. He knows how to win in different phases of the game. He's not a one-dimensional coach. He's not. That's what makes Sean Payton a very great coach. So, yeah. I'm going to go ahead and predict the Broncos to win this game. Even with their struggling offense, for some reason my mind is saying 24. And they're going to put up 24 points. I'm going to say the Broncos are going to win this game 24-10. 24-10. I'm going to say 24-10. So let's see what happens. So, yeah, Denver 24, Saints 10. So I'll check in, I'll do a recap, and I thank you all so much for watching this video. And we'll be back very soon. I'll check back in after tonight's game and enjoy the game all day.